And so we're going to start off like this. Today, it's the middle of the week for me. I don't know when you'll be watching this. If you're going to watch it on YouTube, if you're going to watch it on some other platform, welcome. That's what I have to say. Welcome. And I am welcoming you because for the last, I guess, about a week or so, I haven't really been doing any new topics, right? I haven't been doing any new topics. What I've been doing is co-working. That's what I've been doing for the last week or so. Meaning I'm getting work done and I'm allowing y'all the ability to co-work with me. So if you go to Twitch, right, you can work with me. A lot of times I'm listening to music, but I'm working on different projects. Sometimes I'm talking about them, right? If y'all notice, because I know on my other videos y'all haven't seen this, but now you do, the fact that we have a task list. These are the upcoming things that we're working on. So if you co-work with me, you'll see the tasks that I'm working on. Okay? As those tasks are complete, they are taken off. Now, I'm going to say this. The task list that I created, yes, I created it. It's not a plugin from somewhere else. I created this. This task list was created live in a co-working episode, right? Again, it's not going to be anywhere else because you had to see it on the days when I'm co-working. Those videos will never get put anywhere else. So you have to be there and be a part of it, right? Because you'll see different things that I'm creating and I'll show, or either we'll just, talk about it or come up with ideas. That's kind of what we do on the co-working days, right? So here's what I want to tell you about this task list. This task list actually pulls from my reminders app in iOS, okay? It pulls from it. So even when I'm not streaming or somewhere else or whatever I'm doing in the world, if I think of something that I need to work on that I'm going to be doing on stream or whatever, it'll end up in this task list because I can do it from my phone, right? I'm put in my reminder list, the one that's specific for my live streams, and it'll show up in here, okay? What you'll see is as we're talking, we'll get to certain subjects, these will start disappearing. No, this is not done in post. This is done live in the moment. Why? Because I created it. Now, with that being said, this has been updated too, right? My follower count with my subscriber count, both of those has been updated. That's pulling live data also. So anytime that you like or subscribe during my lives, those numbers will change, okay? Obviously, it's only when you're on Twitch. Because if you like on YouTube or TikTok, those won't be updated on stream. However, what I could do, and let me know, put it down in the comments or come to a live and put it up or to the side. I think it's this side in the chat. Okay. Because if you put it in the chat, then that's something else that we can get added probably on the stream, right? Maybe I'll add it up underneath here where it'll have the amount of subscribers or whatever up underneath each one of the icons. I don't know. Sounds interesting to me. Does it sound interesting to you? Okay. Well, again, that's just something that we can do, right? Because I want this thing to be not only good for me to do the things that I'm doing, but I also want it to be something that when you come, you can get updates. You can see what's going on. You can be a part of what we're doing. And any other new thing that we do, we let you know. I let you know. You know what I'm saying? Because my intent is to build a community of people who continue to grow, people who continue to show up and be the best version of themselves. That can take shape in many different forms, right? It's not only about what we're doing, these type of things. It's also about how we are doing inside, right? So with that, that's how we're going to segue right into our topic for today. The first thing you can tell is if you look at the title, right? What we're talking about today, And you know what? Here's the crazy part. The crazy part is I didn't update it. I thought I did, but I didn't. So here's what we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to update this right now. Right now, live on stream. And again, like I'm saying, I meant to do this and I thought I did it, but I guess I didn't hit save. That's what I think happened. So how can we get this right so we can get right into this topic and get it really, really going? I don't normally do that, and I don't even know where that came from. So what the heck was that? All right. Anyway, all right, here we go. Let me get this updated, and then we'll get right into the topic. I don't mean to hold y'all up. I know you got a short amount of time, and you want to make sure that, you know, you get to see and get to the gist of all that what I'm talking about today. But be patient with me. You know what I'm saying? We all make mistakes. You know? We all make mistakes. All right, let's see, because we were in the wrong category, but we're going to change it now. We're going to change it to where we should have been. And I don't believe that because it put us in the wrong space. So let's go ahead and update that. Bow. All right. We're no longer in the coding space or co-working space. We are back into the just chatting space. All right. So now, here we go. Based on everything I just told you, we're segueing right into the topic, okay? And here's how we're going to do that. Today, what you see at the top, right? This is what we're actually going to be talking about right now, okay? Momentum. Why are we talking about momentum first? Because the topic today is really why you keep starting over. Why you keep starting over. Why do you? Right? That's what we're going to get into. But here's the thing I want to start with. The reason why I'm starting with momentum is because that is the ultimate challenge. Right? The challenge is momentum. So, first of all, you know how we do on this channel. We need to figure out, well, Rich, what do you mean by that? Right? That, remember, you know that, you know that, that sound, right? That real. What do you mean by that? That's what we're really trying to figure out. What do you mean by momentum? Okay? Because I don't know whether everybody knows what momentum is, or I'm pretty sure everybody's experienced momentum. If you're doing anything in life, you may have experienced momentum, but let's look it up. That's what we'll do first, right? Let's look it up. So let me make sure that we can pop that on the screen. Right? We'll make sure we can pop that on the screen. So let's do that. Here we go. Let's put it up. Bam. All right. So we're in our handy dandy dictionary, right? Handy dandy dictionary. Now, I do want to say this because I don't know whether y'all really are getting the gist of this. Let me brighten myself up so y'all can see me over here. Hello, I'm over here. All right. So let's talk about this. And please, don't worry about what you see right here, okay? Don't worry about that. That's not there, okay? That's not there. Now, momentum. That's what we're talking about, momentum. So let's talk about this momentum. Let's look it up. Let's do that. Here we go. Let's look up momentum. Bow, 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 and bow, bow, bow. Okay, so momentum. right? Momentum. Momentum. Okay, so what does it say? A property of a moving body that the body has by virtue of its mass and motion, and that is equal to the product of the body's mass and velocity, right? Broadly, a property of a moving body that determines the length of time required to bring it to rest when under the action of a constant force. Now we're talking, right? Now we're talking. So, boom, strength or force gained by motion or by a series of events. Let me repeat that for the people in the back. Strength or force gained by motion or by a series of events. All right? What are we talking about, Rich? We're talking about the force that is now gained once you've gotten something in motion. Back in the day, we used to say, oh boy, they got motion. They moving and shaking, right? They rolling. Those are the type of terminologies that we used to use back in the day when somebody was really getting stuff done, when somebody had momentum. Okay? So if we look at that and we say that, you know, if you're on the roll, right? If you know, something we say now, foot on the gas pedal, right? All gas, no brakes, right? That's basically, I'm saying, I'm on the go. I'm on the move. I got it popping. I'm rolling, right? That's what it's telling me. What you're telling me when you say that is that you got momentum, right? Because that's what it's about. Once you have your goal, you have your plan, you're headed off on the course. What did the definition say? It said a property of a moving body that determines the length of time required to bring it to rest when under the action of a constant force. Right? Because the only way you can figure how much momentum you have is when you're stopped. Is what it took to stop you. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? If that makes sense, W's in the chat or go down in the comments and say, give me the black power fist. You know what I'm saying? Give me the muscle arm or the black power fist like you got me. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because the only time that you can measure something, or the best time to measure it, is when something is resisting something else. Right? Because if I'm rolling, all you see is me rolling. You can't calculate how much momentum I have. You might can know the speed, but the speed is not the momentum. Right? Because if I'm riding on a motorcycle, right? If I'm riding on a motorcycle, that motorcycle may weigh, let's say 900 kilograms or, maybe like 1,000 pounds. I don't know the math conversion. You know what I'm saying? I don't know the math conversion. I don't do that conversion regularly. But what I know is it's not as much as a car, right? It's not as much as a car. So if I'm on a motorcycle and I'm rolling, and if momentum is calculated by what it takes to stop it, then that means that if I hit something going 70 miles an hour on a motorcycle, That has less momentum than if I hit something in a four-door sedan at 70 miles an hour, right? That car is going to carry further. It's going to take more force against it to stop it. Am I right or am I right? That's what I thought. Rich Bees, you're right. Now, if we look at the momentum when it comes to the car versus a truck, it's going to take more force to stop the truck that's going 70 miles an hour. They're both going the same speed, but the amount of momentum that each has is different. We can scale it up. The amount of momentum it takes to stop a truck versus a 18-wheeler fully loaded with the cabin, with the trailer on the back. That's a different type of momentum. That's a different type of force that it's going to take to actually stop that thing. Right? Let alone stopping something dead in its tracks. What does that mean? What are we saying? What we're saying here is that if I have built up ourselves to have enough weight, enough mass, enough vision, enough plan, enough support system, enough character, enough integrity, right? Enough mental strength, then our mass becomes bigger, right? If our mass becomes bigger, then that means that as we're traveling, we could be traveling the same speed. We could be doing the same amount of things as someone else who has a lack of integrity, a lack of character, who is all over the place, no plan, no goals. If we're traveling at the same speed as them, they're all over the place, we're focused, right? It's gonna take more force to stop us than it is the person who's all over the place, no character, no integrity, tan in the wind. Why do they use when I even said it, why do they use that statement, tan in the wind, right? Oh, they over there tan in the wind. Oh, they over there, they all over the place. You can't be all over the place when you have mass. You weigh too much. And I ain't talking about physical weight. I'm not talking about LBS. I'm not talking about, kgs. I'm talking about you have more mass. You got your weight up, right? You ain't hungry no more. Your pockets is fat, right? Because you've been focused. It would be hard to stop you, right? It would be hard to stop the plan that you've put in place. If you got your mass up, if you got your dream up, if you got your vision up, especially once you wrote it down, created a plan, made it plain, right? And you've already started running that thing down. It's going to be hard to stop you. Very hard. Right? And then, even if something does kind of shakes you up, you might not be able, ooh, what's that? Ooh, I've never experienced that before. What's going to happen? Somebody else, because you've written the plan, because you've set the goal, because you've communicated it to the other people that are involved with it, right? Because you've done all of that, basically been an effective leader, those people that are pushing you, that are coming behind you, will they'll lift you up. And if they can't lift you up, they'll take that same vision that you have and they'll run with it. Meaning that you've created so much mass, so much force, so much movement, so much momentum that somebody else takes up the mantle and runs with it. That's what we're talking about. That's momentum, right? So now if you understand momentum, then what you'll figure out is there's a ton of people who can never get momentum, right? There's a ton of people who are not able to create momentum in their life, because every time they're moving, they're getting stuff started, it's starting to catch on, things are starting to build up, they end up having to start over, right? They can never keep that momentum going. Why is that? Why is that? Do you know? Let's talk about it, right? I think at this point, we understand what momentum is, right? I think at this point, we got that locked down. So now, let's figure out, well, what starting over actually is, okay? What starting over really is. We're now in the green, people. Let's go. Let's go. We about to get foot on gas. Right now we got momentum, okay? So starting over, it doesn't always mean a reset, right? You know what a reset is, right? Reset, like when you reset in your computer, you restart your phone. Like, we're not talking about that you have a reset. We're talking about that as soon as you get momentum going, you end up, I guess we can say, quitting, right? And you might not be quitting because you want to quit, right? You might not be quitting because, or you might not be starting over because something has come against you. Sometimes you start over because you've got a different idea. So I'm not saying that starting over is always a bad thing, right? I'm saying that starting over does hinder you being able to keep and carry momentum, right? Because momentum, by definition, requires time, right? Because if you look at trying to calculate force, all of these things are over time. You see what I'm saying? So if we are trying to create momentum, we have to have mass, and that mass has to move. Sometimes that mass growth potential takes time to get the right amount of mass that creates the high enough momentum. Okay? So if you're at the point that you're just getting a good mass built up and you're moving, obviously, because if you're gaining mass, then you're moving forward. If you're talking about business, if you're talking about an idea, you're moving forward. The issue is if out the blue, you just say, you know what? I'm going to go do this other thing. Right? Or, and let me make it personal for you. Okay? I've started many of businesses. And here's the challenge that I've run into. The challenge that I've run into is that exactly what I just said tends to be my Achilles heel, right? the fact that I will get something moving and then either something comes up with my family, something comes up with a vehicle, something comes up with one of my other companies that's not really as big as this company, like something just comes up, right? Or I get, it might not even be a bad thing. It might be an opportunity to go somewhere, to do something, to travel, to those things have caused me to keep starting over. And again, not starting from scratch, but not maintaining momentum. That's the challenge, right? Let's talk about it in the form of this stream. Here's one of the things that happened. So I told you, ever since December when I started this stream, I've basically been streaming every day. Even though I told you at the start of this, if you're on the live, you heard it. If you're on YouTube, you might have not heard this part. But when I started over the last week, I have been streaming differently. I've been streaming co-working, right? In my co-working stream, those streams aren't kept live. I don't really take clips from the co-working stream, right? Because I probably have music playing. I probably have, we're more so working on different projects that we might not want to keep live out there in the public because we're working on them. And so if you want to see those, you have to be a part of the lives to see that stuff, right? You have to, and then we might be talking about random stuff on there that really doesn't have like a topic. It's more so just kind of, we're working together. So other people are coming into the live and we're talking about this topic. We're switching, we're talking about this topic. So it's not really a consistent type of stream. It's more of a let's work together as if we're in an office complex and, we're just kind of shooting the breeze as we're working. So there's no real focus. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason why you haven't seen any more lives come up on the YouTube or on the TikTok, like the shorts and stuff like that. So today I'm choosing to do it. Here's the thing. Could it be that me switching over to doing the co-working because I got a lot of work to do, that I'm really kind of stopping my own momentum? Right? Could it be that me changing subjects is reducing the amount of force that I'm moving forward with, right? We're not carrying as much motion. And so now I'm coming on a week later and I'm starting over again, not from scratch, but starting to build momentum, getting more people back on the stream of this way that I do stream that I've been doing, right? I don't know. Because again, to measure this, I have to wait until I look back at the stats, right? Because right now I'm doing it. I can't measure, well, what's the difference of the growth while I wasn't doing this type of stream to the streams that I was doing prior to when I switched to stream style, right? Or category. Not saying that all pivots aren't worth it, but if you're starting to gain momentum, why would you stop it? Right? Why would you stop it? Basically, I'm asking, why do people do that? Could it be that people are doing that because they're impatient? Right? Could it be that they feel like, well, it's not growing fast enough? Basically, I don't see any results right now. Right? Could it be because they have a random feeling that they're like, you know what? I don't know. I just feel like I want to do something different. You know what I'm saying? Could it be that maybe they want a fresh start? right? But if we get a little dark on this, could it be that people just don't trust the process? Could it be? I mean, because what I know is that there's been times that I've gained some momentum. The phones were ringing in my company, you know, every day we had more projects, we were working on stuff. It was, stuff was moving. You know what I mean? Stuff was moving. And then you know how people say, well, life started lifing. Yeah, yeah. But I shouldn't have stopped the momentum, right? Hindsight's 2020. That's why I said it's like looking back, I can see it. In the moment, I'm like, well, I mean, this is still something I need to do. It's okay, right? Same. This is the reason why we had the whole live talking about consistency, right? We talked about consistency. We talked about the whole fact that there was a difference between being motivated, right, or moving from motivation, or moving from discipline. We had the stream. We talked about it. So for you at this moment, and for me at this moment, when I'm talking about this, I'm looking at it from a sense that, and this is just a little bit different because we're talking about momentum, right? We're talking about that force that's traveling with you as you're building and growing. And okay, let me say this. You know how they say that when you start a business or you're doing something, right, you're it's like you're making a snowball, which turns into a snow boulder as you're rolling it up the hill, right? The higher you go, the bigger the ball gets, right? And you're pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing until you get almost at the top. Now you have this humongous snow boulder, right? Snow boulder ball. And once you get to the top, and you go over, now I don't have to push anymore, right? Once I go over the top, and now we're going to go back down the other side of the mountain, I don't have to push anymore, right? The thing is, it has momentum, it has force, it has motion, it is moving. That turns into an avalanche, right? But somebody had to push it up that hill. And as you're rolling up the hill, it gets easier to roll it up the hill. The more people, the more mass, the more force you have that's working to get it to go up the hill. Right? So why would you push it going up the hill? You're getting it to a big ball. You're starting to gain some force behind you. Right? You don't have the momentum yet, but you got some force behind you. We are getting this thing up the hill. We, right? Operative word, we are getting it up the hill. And then we say, you know what? Squirrel. You know what I'm saying? Like your attention now goes to something else that catches you in the moment. Now you go do that. Everybody else who's behind you now gets rolled back on by the snow boulder. How does that help anybody out? Right? That doesn't help them. It doesn't help you, because now everybody's pissed. Because you jumped from behind that snow boulder to go do something else. You didn't stay focused on that goal. This is a point that can go deeper. Right? So let's do that. Let's go deeper. Here we go. So if we are talking about the deeper point behind this, could it be that when someone or I restart, if you will, right? It's more of a ego protection, right? I'm saying ego protection because if I jump out before it really gets a lot of mass, right? Before the force has to be hard, then I can blame it on something else, right? Or I can say, I was just living my life. I was just doing my thing. You know what I'm saying? Like I can have all these other ideas or things I can point to say, well, these things, came into play and that didn't allow me to do what I was trying to do. Right? When really and truly, I just didn't stick it out long enough to get the momentum. Right? Because the momentum can carry. Right? So if I restart, I don't have to actually face whether or not I lack discipline. Right? This is the deeper point of it. Right? You see it, the deeper point. Could it be that I'm just trying to hide my lack of discipline? Could it be that I'm just trying to hide my lack of consistency? Could it be that I didn't have a full plan to begin with? Right? Maybe there was some cracks or some flaws in my plan. And so in that moment, I'm like, well, maybe I need to just skate on this one, right? Or I need to figure some things out, but let me go away, and then I just never get back to it. And then when I do, I got to start again, right? Okay, thank you. Maybe I can just use it to blame somebody else or blame the plan or blame any other thing I can think of versus the fact that I don't have follow through. Something to think about, right? Things that make you go, right? So if that's the deeper point, then we can immediately go into some real life examples. Okay? Here's some real life examples. Some people will go out there and every 2 weeks, they got a brand new workout plan, right? The other plan was a 6-month plan. The other plan was a 90-day plan. But after 2 weeks, you like, and you switch up and you go to some other plan. Well, I think I'll just work this plan. Right? Your goal is to lose weight. Your goal is to gain muscle. Your goal is to become a better version of yourself on the outside. But every 2 weeks, you feel like there's a different plan that's going to get you there versus just sticking with the plan that you already have. Right? Maybe every month you have a brand new business idea. Every month. And every month you want to start that. You want to start this new one. Right? You're consistently creating ideas, yes. So you have some consistency, but your consistency is for change and not for sticking it out so that way you can gain momentum. Because I think the whole point of anything that you're doing is to get to momentum. Right? Is to get momentum going. That's when the convergence happens. Right? People get on board. More ideas around that thing is starting to expand, more people start paying for that thing, more people start, investing in that thing, it starts to grow, it starts to gain mass, it starts to gain following, right? It starts to gain support. Now you have momentum. That's where the success comes from, right? If we were to go back to one more point on the deeper point, is it because you have a fear of success? Right? Why do people do that? Right? Because I don't think that you should have a new content strategy every time the views drop a little bit. Right? No, stick to what you're doing. If you planned it, right? If you really thought out the plan, it don't make no sense to switch it. Stay on your plan and run out the course that you planned it to be. And then you can start to come up. Matter of fact, before that plan is over, you can start to plan what the next strategy will be. But don't just, we got 5 less views this week. We gonna have to try something new. What? Because sometimes what I found, and here's an example that I found in my life back when I was working. I was working at one job, and at that job, I was making $25,000 a year. Okay? I was making $25,000 a year. And the job was really monotonous, okay? That job was really, really monotonous. And I put in for some other jobs because I was looking for something that I knew was more of a substantial job that had more growth opportunities attached with it, okay? So that's not a starting over, that's a pivot, right? But I pivoted because, like I said, I'm really looking for the growth opportunities because I knew there was no growth potential where I was. Okay? So, being the fact that there was no growth potential there, and I need to pivot to something else, let me find something that is more, more corporate, right? Not as wishy-washy of a company, has more long-term history, has more momentum, right? That company has more momentum. Okay, so that's what I was trying to connect myself with. So I get a call from one of the other companies, and there was one company that was really big, really huge in the area I lived in. And I was like, you know what? That's a great opportunity. As I had interviews, talked to them, all that kind of thing, what I found out was, because they said, yep, we like you, we want to hire you, right? Cool. What's the pay look like? What's the pay look like? I told you I was already making 25. They said, well, this position starts out at 23.5. 23.5 from making 25. The 25 was take home. Not including the taxes and all the, no, including taxes and all, I was taking home 25. But now I go to the actual pay total is 23.5, but that pay, they pay for insurance. Okay? So it's really more than that because if you account for insurance in it, but the point is that it still was a pay cut, right? Which means that I was here and now I had to go here, right? Here. And so now my pay has dropped. I took that. Why did I take that? Because in less than 90 days, I was already up to 45K. In less than 90 days. Meaning after the 90-day period, they boost my pay up and I went to 45K. Plus a bonus. Right? So now I have a bonus. Just in time for Christmas. So my point here is that it's not a bad thing necessarily to pivot. right? But the whole thing is that life, sometimes you have to step back to go forward, right? But I knew the whole time what my plan was. My plan was to be a part of a company that had more momentum, more growth potential, more opportunity for me to grow and make more money. That was the goal. That was the dream. That was the thing that I was doing at that time in my life. Okay. And so, yes, I took a pay cut only to come back a lot stronger in the next 90 days. Sometimes you have to do that. That's not jumping ship. What that is knowing your value, knowing your worth, and knowing what an opportunity could be with the right place, with the right people, with the right company. Okay? So that's just one example, right? Like, that's just one example from my life that I can say that at the time I had momentum because it was not a time that I was without a job. I was going from this job to that job, this job to that job, and every time I was making more money. In the first job, I started out part-time. I went from part-time to full-time to better full-time, right? Full-time with better hours at a better time of day. Then I went from that to having a little more freedom, but still getting the pay of full-time. Then going from that to getting in the right place, which clamped down my time. But after that 90 days, it gave me a lot more freedom around the job. I was still at work, but it was around, I could go anywhere I want, but I had more freedom. And it also allowed me the ability to get myself in position that now I was able to start my own company. All because I took a pay cut only to get a pay raise. And every year after that, I was getting pay raises. And then I started my own company. Right. And I ain't talking about small pay raises. I was getting bonuses and everything. Why? Because if I say I'm gonna do something, that's what I'm gonna do. And most companies don't know how to deal with that. They're like, oh man, that person's great. Everything they said they do, they're gonna do. They did it. I was on it. Right? So same thing with this. Once I started my company, this is where the issue lies because now I'm rolling, but then I had a new opportunity. That new opportunity paid me a lot more money, but it took away my ability to run my company. Come out of that opportunity, now I'm back in my company, working that, growing it, all that kind of stuff, and then I move out the country. Growing out of there, like you see my point? It's every time that momentum is rolling, there's a shift, right? I take responsibility for that because it's on me. I chose to go ahead and do those things instead of saying, you know what? Nope, I'm not doing anything else. I need to get this company up to this amount before I do anything else. I'm only going to do this thing until I get it to this number, and then I'll add something else. That is, to me, what I call the fix. Right? That's where we are. Boom. We are on the fix. So, when you look at the fix for this, it's the fact that you have to plan to fix it. You're not just going to roll into the fix. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to roll into the fix. You're going to plan to fix it. You have to first stop throwing things away. Right? You can't throw everything away and keep starting over. We can't do that. We can't keep starting over. You can't gain momentum. You can't gain mass that then gives you the ability to get to the momentum. There's no way to do that because you keep starting from the beginning. That means you got to scrape up the crumbs again and build something. there's no growth potential. There's ultimate growth potential, but you don't have the momentum to get it to a point that you now have something substantial that then going into the next opportunity, you could take what you've learned, take the growth, take the money, the revenue, the people, even to a new opportunity, so you're not having to restart the momentum. Because the momentum is not the thing. The momentum is the thing that you put around it. The momentum is the force that's created by the mass that you've been able to build. Right? That's what I mean by you have to keep what's working. Right? Keep what's working moving forward. Then you adjust the things that's not. If something's not working right, then those things you may have to like clean off. You might have to, chip away at and be like, okay, nah, that part has to go, right? You might have to prune that part. Okay, that part has to go. Because you're trying to stay mobile and able to move forward, right? Just because, and we started off talking about rolling this snowball up the hill, right? It starts off as a little tiny snowball, little baby snowball, and you start rolling up the mountain, up the snowbank, and it gets bigger and bigger, 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 bigger. By the time you get to the top, you got a snow boulder, right? That snow boulder, if you remember, anytime you mess with snowballs, if you really want to make a real good one, you have to, clean it off. You have to wipe it off, right? And so, yes, you might have all this snow that you started with, right? This snow, you packed it in, you rubbed off all the flaky stuff, you've gotten the flakes and stuff off, and now you got a nice, shiny, really strong snowball that you can throw really far, right? Same thing with rolling the boulder up the hill, right? Rolling the snowball up the hill. When you got to the top and you have this huge snow boulder, if you really want it to go down and really get momentum and just explode like something that this world has never seen before, right? What they call a unicorn. It has to be very precise, right? It has to be very precise. It has to be very smooth and able to cut down that hill with the maximum amount of force and speed that then generates a high number of momentum, meaning it takes a lot to stop it. It doesn't matter whether that boulder hits a tree. It doesn't matter whether it hits other rocks. It doesn't matter whether it hits people, cars. If it gets to a certain point, it's rolling through all of that. The momentum is just so much that it's going to carry it through anything that gets in front of it. That's what we're trying to do. With everything that we build and everything that we grow, that's our point. Nothing stops our momentum. Right? We have to stay with the thing that we're doing for long enough to get real feedback. Right? Because that's how we know if we have the momentum. Right? And the very last thing that we need to do with the fix is we have to learn the difference between refining something and restarting something. Right? Refining basically means, like I said, you're cleaning it off. You're getting it down to the core. You're trying to make sure that you have the basics of what the thing is, all the features that's involved in that thing, all of the extras that you want to make sure is involved in that thing, and it fits the mission, the vision, the goal of what you're trying to do, right? Restarting means that I took that snowball and pounded that bad boy and then pulled up new snow and started again. We don't want to do that. Not when you already have something that is put together enough that all you have to do is just keep packing. Why do I have to bust it up and start it again? Are there reasons that stuff should be busted up early on? Yes, there are. We can talk about that another time because there are reasons for that. But in this moment, I don't think that most of the reasons that people are restarting is the reasons that they need to restart. They're more of the reasons why they just don't stick to their plan. That's my take. I'll be here all week. Listen, I'm going to tell you, I appreciate y'all joining. I hope that what we talked about, y'all can take in, right? Y'all can figure out what areas in your life you need to be more focused, gain more mass to generate more momentum so you can see success, right? Because the funny part is about this one today, this topic today, is that this is an inside and an outside thing. Those things have to come together, which generate this momentum that we're talking about. Right? It's a stick to itness. It's a I'm gonna keep on going despite those things around me. Right? It's like a knowing inside. Because that's the thing that attracts people. They're like, oh yeah, he's gonna do it. She's gonna do it. They're going to do it. I want to be a part of that. I can just tell they're the type of people, they're going to get it done. And that's what you want to be a part of. So, all of our reminders are complete. All of our topics today have now been covered. Thank y'all for joining. Make sure that you come back and check me out. I have a brand new topic the next time. So make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. Look right here. We are growing. We got subscribers and followers on Twitch, but we now need to get them over here on the YouTube. We need to get them on the TikTok. So y'all go ahead and join that. Send this stuff over to your peoples. These are things that I know that they can grow from. You know that they can grow from these things. We all want to grow together. Why? Because like I say all the time, a rising tide raises all boats. And we all want to stay afloat, right? But why not be on a boat? Why not be in a yacht? Why not be on a cruise ship? These are the things that we want to do. You know what I'm saying? One way, though, that I can tell you that you can make a little bit of extra money in your spare time, head over to BIPOC Stock, right? I know you got at least 15,000 photos on your phone. You might have 25,000. Upload a couple of them to the site. That way, people who need images, they can go pay you, download them, and use them in their projects. Okay? It's that simple. It's that simple. It doesn't cost you anything to set up an account, right? But it will add value back to your life. It's able to give you money back from the things that you create. All right? And when I say things, I'm talking about authentic photography. That's what we do on BIPOC Stock. Listen, check me out next time. This has been Rich Bz. Make sure that you tell your friend to follow your boy, Rich Bz, the real Rich Bz, on all of these. See you next time. Rich Bz out.